back, John, to the Zoom room. So let's jump straight into today's text reading. Which is section 6 of chapter 30, called Justification for Forgiveness. So I'll just share my screen with you. All right. 30, there we go. Okay. Right. I've just got a point outside. Right. Way outside. Okay, so let's do it. All right, so there's today's text reading. It's called the Justification for Forgiveness, section 6 of chapter 30, if you want to follow on in your book. So let's just read the, given you've got just over an hour, I'm going to just read the alternative.
Anger is never justified. Attack has no foundation. It is here, shall we say, my anger is never justified?
No, I think.
Okay.
I think it needs to be it's a general principle.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
it is here.
Justified attack is no fun.
Yeah. It is here escape from fear begins, and I will be made complete.
No, it's just escape from fear and will be made complete. We could say it is here my escape from fear begins. That would be okay. It's here my escape from fear begins and will be made complete. And will be
made complete. Yeah.
Completed. How about that? Will be completed.
Yeah. Here is the real world. Are we doing real with a capital R, John, or just assuming that means the real world?
No, that's an adjective. So the reality we put with a capital R, but
okay.
Real world is adjectives and verbs.
Yeah. Okay. Here is the real world given. Oh, here is the real world given in exchange for dreams of terror. For it is on this letting go rests and is only natural. You are not asked to offer pardon. I am not asked to offer pardon where attack is due and would be justified. I kind of prefer, I am not asked to offer pardon where attack appears to be due.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How about seems to be?
Seems to be due and would be justified. It just kind of clarifies it a bit. But that would mean that I let go a sin by overlooking what is really there. But that would mean that I let go of a sin by looking what is. Well, that would mean that I let go of a sin by overlooking what is really there.
Yeah.
I'm not being asked to offer a pardon.
For what's really there. So this is the radical nature of it. If you think it's really there and then you try and overlook it, it's impossible because it's really there in your mind.
Yeah.
Of course, that's the whole delusion. The ego says to you, well, it is really there. Look, there it's happened, or this person's done this or said this, and it's trying to convince us that it's really there. And the correction is to remind yourself that it's not really there. It's a dream. The dream is illusory. The dream is false, and whatever the past situation in the dream world that seemed to happen is now gone. It's over. Well, it never really happened in the dream, and it's no longer present in the dream. So on that basis, you can let it go.
Mm.
This is not pardon.
But it did happen in the dream, though, didn't it? It didn't happen in the real world.
Yeah, well, it seemed to happen in the dream, but the whole point is the dream is a dream.
Yeah.
Nothing that happens in the dream is reality, is real. So that's the only basis on which you can forgive and really let it go. You go, well, I'm in this dream world and nothing in the dream is real. Just in the same way as at night, you dream a dream and then you wake up and you go, well, that wasn't real. So whatever happened there, whatever seemed to happen was just in my imagination, was in my mind only. It hasn't happened in reality. Yes, you're saying to us, but it's the same thing here. It just seems to be a much more real dream. When we've got our waking dreams seem to be more real than our sleeping dreams, so they may be harder to let go of. But the principle's the same. A dream is a dream is a dream, and so don't look on something and then try and pardon it. Just look correctly on it and say, but this is not real. You deny its reality from the start. And obviously the ego speaks loudest and first, so you're probably not going to do that always. You get triggered and you've made it real, and then the correction's got to come in and say, but remember that it's not true, it's not real, that none of it's true and real. So why are you getting upset over nothing? And then he says, this isn't pardon. And carry on, number 9.
This is not pardon, for it would assume that by responding in a way which is not justified, my letting go will become the answer to attack that has been made. And thus is letting go inappropriate, by being granted where it is not due. Is it letting go or is it pardon in this case?
Yeah, this is pardon inappropriate. It's
letting go is kind of like a positive thing, isn't it? Therefore,
pardon because it's
it's more.
That's the AI's translation. Therefore, pardon is an inappropriate. I've been granted.
Where it is not due. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
One is inappropriate. I've been granted where it is not due. I'm not sure that needs a comma. How about I've been granted pardon, therefore pardon. I've been granted where it is not due is not appropriate.
Yes, nice. You have a good feeling for the flow of the words, John.
Yeah, I think it has. That's the whole the translation, not just the language, isn't it? It's not just the words. I think a lot of people struggle with the sentence structure of the course as well. So it can make it a bit easier to read.
Yeah. I mean,
he does this. He inverts the normal order a lot, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah.
Well, I suppose maybe there's a reason for that. He's saying, well, you've got to read it more carefully or something. But it just adds another level of difficulty for people.
It
And the
does.
course is difficult enough, I think. So
I often wonder if Germans find the course easier, in the sense that they often invert the sense themselves. So maybe they
maybe,
can
yeah.
maybe they can read it easier.
Yeah. Pardon by being granted where is not due is inappropriate. Okay. So what's he saying in this one?
So he's saying very clearly that anger and attack can never be justified. In any situation can never be justified. And the realization of this is the beginning of our release from them. And he's emphasizing that pardon is a pardon of something that we believe has been done will never work, because we continue to believe that something was done, that something inappropriate was done, and that's a kind of a oxymoron, or whatever it is. It cannot be.
You can't pardon what is unreal, because it never happened. So it's all about having the correct perception to start with, ideally, of anything. So if your default response to anything is, well, it's unreal, then you're starting to learn this radical forgiveness. You still get triggered and you make it real, and then you try and overlook it. You're not going to be able to do that.
No.
You made it real in your mind, and so how do you let go of what's real?
Yeah.
You have to go back to first principles and say, but all of it's unreal. Whatever I'm perceiving in this world is unreal. This situation is no exception. And so then on that basis, I'm not pardoning it. I'm just recognizing its unreality. And if I really get that it's unreal, how can I be upset? It's not really possible for me to be upset, is it?
No.
It's unreal. But it requires a lot of awareness to like, okay, well, I'm doing stuff in this world, but none of it's real. And so whatever seems to happen here is just part of the unreality, and I don't react to it, I don't judge it. And we all get triggered, and that's why we have a course to remind us. He's saying, well, go back and look on that situation again and realize that it's not real. So you don't have to pardon what has really happened. You simply have to recognize from the start that what seemed to happen is part of a dream, it's an illusion, and therefore it's unreal, therefore it is of no effect. Well, that's the whole thing. That's all we asked to do in this course. But that, to do that is pretty major for the mind. That's a huge shift in reality and awareness to do that. So we keep working at it. When stuff comes up and we do judge it and then we try and pardon it, then we have to recognize, okay, but I'm doing it wrong here. This is forgiveness, incorrect forgiveness to destroy, as he calls it in the supplement, the psychotherapy. I think it's in the psychotherapy purpose, processes and practices supplement, forgiveness to destroy. This is not genuine forgiveness. Okay, happy to move to number two.
Yeah. Pardon is always justified. It has a sure foundation. I do not let go of the unforgivable, nor overlook a real attack that calls for punishment. Awakening does not lie in being asked to make unnatural responses which are inappropriate to what is real. In his first three sentences here, pardon is always justified. It has a sure foundation. I mean, it's saying that that's what we believe in the illusion, isn't it?
No, he's saying pardon is always justified. Like true pardon is always justified. It has a sure foundation because the sure foundation is the fact that everything that you're pardoning is unreal.
Yeah.
So
it's this use of the word
sure foundation.
I
mean, he's called it pardon.
Yeah.
You know, it's not strictly then pardon. It's letting go. But
it is.
He's taking pardon idea from the previous paragraph and saying
it's that through. It's because he's using the same verb. It's kind of throwing me off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we could change it. I suppose we could say
release. No.
Maybe say true pardon.
True pardon. That is helpful. That is helpful. Yeah.
True pardon or letting go. Okay.
Yeah.
Is always justified.
Yeah.
True forgiveness or true pardon is just
that go. Does help. That does help, Jono. That does help.
Great.
True pardon or letting go is always justified. It has a sure. It's so much. You just read so much clearer. I do not let go of the unforgivable, nor overlook a real attack that calls for punishment. Awakening does not lie in being asked to make unnatural responses which are inappropriate to what is real. Instead, it merely asks that I respond appropriately to what is not real by not perceiving what has not occurred. If letting
that's the radical nature of it, you know? Don't make it real to start with.
Yeah. If letting go were unjustified, I would be asked to sacrifice my rights when I return.
The original's forgiveness for attack.
Or letting go for attack. Something not right about that.
Maybe that just needs to be changed when I let go. I'll be asked to sacrifice my rights when I let go in response to seeming attack.
Yeah. But I am merely asked to see letting go as the natural reaction to distress that rests on error. But I am merely asked.
So, shall we keep that in the original? It's pardon. If pardon.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's better. It's better. Yeah.
What? Keep it as letting go.
No, have pardon in there.
Pardon there. Pardon.
If pardon were unjustified.
So that's not interesting because the AI made that change itself. I didn't tell it to do that.
Can we call it real pardon?
Figured out that pardon and letting go are similar. So then it makes a substitution, even though I didn't tell it to.
Could we just say if true pardon were unjustified?
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep it very clear. If true pardon were unjustified, I would be asked to sacrifice my rights when I let go in response to seeming attack. Do we want to put pardon in there again instead of maybe not. I'm just mumbling, John. It's okay. Number 7, but I am merely asked to see letting go as the natural reaction to distress that rests on error. But I am merely asked to see letting go as a natural reaction to distress that rests on error, and thus calls for help. Letting go, or my letting go, is the only sane response. It keeps my rights from being sacrificed. Yeah.
Okay. Just read that from the top.
True pardon or letting go is always justified. It has a sure foundation. I do not let go of the unforgivable, nor overlook a real attack that calls for punishment. Awakening does not lie in being asked to make unnatural responses which are inappropriate to what is real. Instead, it merely asks that I respond appropriately to what is not real by not perceiving what has not occurred. If true pardon were unjustified, I would be asked to sacrifice my rights when I let go in response to seeming attack. But I am merely asked to perceive letting go as the natural reaction to distress that rests on error, and so calls for help. Letting go is the only sane response. It keeps my rights from being sacrificed. Yeah. Yes, it's good.
Okay, so what's he saying there?
It's saying here that the true pardon is is the acknowledgement that whatever it was didn't actually happen. It was just a dream. It didn't happen. We are not being asked to forgive anything that actually happened because it didn't happen. So it's insisting that true pardon is just an acknowledgement that whatever it is didn't happen in the first place. And if we can connect with that, then we will start to see the situation correct.
Yeah. and we won't sacrifice our rights. So our right is to be peaceful and happy.
Yeah.
But if we misperceive, then we're unhappy and stressed and miserable and whatever else, which is our own decision. It's never what someone else is doing to you. It's your own perception of the situation. It's the problem. So, if ever you find that, as you did, this morning with that trigger from last night, you did the right thing. You're like, okay, well, I need to let it go. It's very simple. I've got the choice to hold on to this or let it go. I need to let it go, which maintains your right to happiness and prevents your happiness from being sacrificed on the altar of the ego's thought system. So it's a good section, this, because he's really highlighting the radical nature of this letting go, that you can't pardon what is real. He's talked about it before, but forgiveness in this was, I think, section 1, before, was it in the precursor to lesson 121, forgiveness.
Yeah,
there's a section where he says for forgiveness, forgiveness seems to be justified, but what is it? So forgiveness simply recognizes that what you think has happened hasn't really happened. So there's really nothing to forgive. It's that passage.
Yeah.
It's the same point here. It's going to the very heart of the metaphysics of forgiveness, and forgiveness is the realization that it's not real. That's all forgiveness is. So that's why the metaphysics is so important. You can't ignore those and really get it. And people who, Deborah said, some lady in her course group saying, well, I'm still struggling with this illusion thing after years. Well, it's like, but that's the whole basis. You can't forgive unless you have comprehended that it's all an illusion and a dream. And of course, we all slip up and we we start forgetting that, because that's what the ego tempts us to do. But the forgiveness rests on the metaphysics, the metaphysical truth that this is a dream world, that none of it's real. And that's the only basis on which you can really let it go. You know, the compassionate forgiveness, we call it, or halfway forgiveness, says it's real, it's happened, but I'll mitigate my judgment of it, because, okay, the person struggled, maybe they're not in their right mind, they have had a difficult childhood. You find some mitigation, and then that softens your judgment, but you're still making it real, and then trying to mitigate the effects of what's real, you see. Whereas the radical nature of this radical forgiveness is it gets to the very root, which is the reality of this entire world and of your illusory ego. It says none of that's real. Your self-concept's not real. What your self-concept is perceiving in this world isn't real. So on that basis, letting go is obvious. You're letting go of what never happened, what's unreal. Then it's completely justified. This, then as he says, a pardon or true pardon is completely justified on that basis. Otherwise, you can't really forgive. You can't really let go unless you get the metaphysics, and that's why so many people struggle with forgiveness, because they don't understand the metaphysics, which he's just pointing out to us again in this section. Okay, so any other thoughts on number 2? Should we go to number 3?
No.
You want to read number 3 and the alternative?
This understanding is the only change that lets the real will rise to take the place of dreams of terror. Fear cannot arise unless attack is justified. And if it had a real foundation, letting go would have none. The real world is achieved when I perceive the basis of letting go is quite real and fully justified. While I regard it as a gift unwarranted, it must uphold the guilt I would let go.
I think should we change that letting go to pardon?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but
yeah, it just helps the understanding.
It's quite useful to take that word pardon, which is usually associated with some lower form of forgiveness.
Yeah.
I pardon your sins. So there's either the compassionate forgiveness I talked about, or the pseudo forgiveness. Typically the righteous religious person says, "Oh, well, you terrible sinner, I pardon you, but in my mind you're still very much a sinner and you're separate from me and you will be condemned and judged by God, but I pardon you because that's what I'm supposed to do."
Would it be helpful to say, would it be helpful to say true pardon is quite real?
Well, I perceive the basis of true pardon is quite real and fully justified. Whereas the other pardon is not. The false pardon or false forgiveness is not. Because how can you really let go of what's happened? You can't. No. It's really happened. The real consequences. It's really caused pain and suffering. You've been hurt. Someone else has been hurt. How do you pardon that? Which is why most people struggle with pardon or forgiveness, because it's happened in their perception, and the pain and the suffering that it's caused is apparently real, and now you're stuck with it, and you try and somehow pardon it, and how do you do that if it's real in your perception? So you have to go to the root. It's what's called radical, because radical comes from the word root. You have to go to the root and say, but it never really happened, because the entire world never really happened. It's just an unreal illusion. I'm in an illusion, a dream. At that basis, I can let go of all of it. which means it's an all or nothing deal. You know, I let go of all of it, or I hold on to all of it, because one illusion cherished means that you make the whole world real. Which is why it has to be, you know, an all or nothing deal. You make something real, well, then everything must be real, because it's in the same order of reality. Which is why he's saying don't make exceptions. You must perceive everything correctly, or your mind is still split and the ego's still got a hold. Okay, so let's do number 3 then.
Now, this understanding is the only change that lets the real world rise to take the place of dreams of terror. Fear cannot arise unless attack is justified, and if it had a real foundation, letting go would have none. The real world is achieved when I perceive the basis of true pardon is quite real and fully justified. While I regard it as a gift unwarranted, it must uphold the guilt I would let go.
Let's do unwarranted gift, shall we?
Yes.
Well, God is an unwarranted gift. Must uphold the guilt I would. And the original is I would forgive. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I would. How about we just say supposedly? Well, so I can't fake it. I have to let go radically or not at all. Letting go means I recognize the unreality of what I'm perceiving. And it says unjustified forgiveness is attack. Oh. So if I try and let go but I perceive that it's unjustified, then I'm actually attacking. I'm attacking others, I'm attacking myself, which is why anything other than radical forgiveness doesn't work. Okay, we carry on. On number 5.
Unjustified letting go is attack, and this is all the world can ever give. It lets go sinners sometimes, but remains aware that they have sinned, and so they do not merit the letting go that it gives.
John, you've muted yourself for some reason.
I'm here. Did you hear me?
No, you.
Oh,
you
right.
went
Okay.
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 Mute yourself somewhere.
Okay. So, unjustified attack. Oh, I'll start again. Unjustified letting go is attack, and this is all the world can ever give. It lets go of sinners sometimes, but remains aware that they have sinned, and so they do not merit the letting go that it gives.
Okay, so thoughts on that? Just read it from the top. Read it from the top again, and it will help. And then
this understanding is the only change that lets the real world rise to take the place of dreams of terror. Fear cannot arise unless attack is justified. And if I had a real foundation, and if it had a real foundation, true pardon would have none. The real world is achieved when I perceive the basis of true pardon is quite real and fully justified. While I regard it as an unwarranted gift, it must uphold the guilt I would supposedly let go. Unjustified letting go is attack. And this is all the world can ever give. It lets go of sinners sometimes, but remains aware that they have sinned, and so they do not merit the letting go that it gives.
Okay, so what's he saying in this one?
Well, he's emphasizing that true pardon, real letting go, is the only form of real forgiveness that can really release the situation and move on from it. Any form of apparent pardon merely dresses up the situation and pretends to be forgiveness.
Yeah. Unjustified forgiveness is attack. It's quite a statement.
It is.
So if I think forgiveness is not justified, but I'm supposedly trying to forgive, I'm actually still attacking that person. And this is all the world can ever give. Let's go of sinners sometimes. Pardon sinners. Let's make that. Pardons sinners sometimes, but remains aware that they have sinned. And so they do not merit forgiveness that it gives. So still sees the sin, still sees the error, makes it real in the mind, reacts to it, gets angry, seeks to punish, condemn, but remains aware they have sinned. So it keeps then the idea of sin alive in your mind. That keeps you separate from the other person and maintains the separation in your mind. And so because they've sinned, they do not merit the letting go that it gives. And you can see right here exactly how the ego maintains its hold on the mind.
Yeah.
It's insidious and cunning. It's like, well, apparently it's real. Because the sin is real, therefore the separation is real. Your attack thoughts are justified. You maintain the separate self, and they are separate self, and that keeps you separate and apart in your perception. And as long as you have that idea of sin, even if you say you're trying to forgive it, you remain separated in your mind. It's as simple as that. It's only the radical forgiveness that says, well, there is no sin, it never happened, you're not separate from the other person, and therefore you can let it all go, and once again become one, realize that you are one with everyone. It's so simple, isn't it? It's such a simple idea that he's teaching us, but it's so profound, it's so radical, because it undoes the entire false world of illusion when you understand this. Completely, overturns the ego's thought system, which is why it takes a lot of practice, a lot of mind training to get it. Okay.
Yep.
So,
Good.
if you can read it in the original, John, it just gives me a chance to edit it.
Sure.
So then sometimes the words like pardon and stuff, then I know what's
This is
going on in the original.
This is the false forgiveness which the world employs to keep the sense of sin alive.
Exactly what I said.
Yeah. This is the false letting go, pardon, which the world employs to keep the sense of sin alive. And recognizing God is just. It seems impossible his pardon could be real. And recognizing God is just, it seems impossible his pardon could be real. And recognizing pure formless awareness of perfect love is just.
It needs to be pardoned.
It seems impossible its pardon could be real. Thus is the fear of God the sure result of seeing pardon as unmerited. Thus is the fear of pure formless awareness of perfect love the sure result of seeing letting go as unmerited. And just make the connection between those number 2 and number 3 there, John. Because in number 2 is saying that if we believe that God is just, then this form of pardon, of apparent pardon, is impossible. And recognize God is just, it seems impossible his pardon could be real. Okay, so it's saying that if we take God as being right, his pardon cannot be real when it's in the worldly form of forgiveness. So going on from that, because we've got that error, that doubt in our mind, we are fearful of God's pardon, or we see that as being unmerited, because we have this sense of the whole thing is not true anyway. And therefore, no one who sees themselves as guilty can avoid the fear of God. Yes, okay. Okay, so yeah.
Well, so we recognize it's just, it seems impossible its pardon could be real, because we've made the illusion real. So then we say, well, God is just. How could God forgive what's really happened? I mean, this is appalling. You know, how could a just God forgive that? So then it seems impossible its pardon could be real. So then, you know, people who don't understand the radical nature of this and the metaphysics, the illusion, inevitably believe in a just God. They believe in God. It's a just God rather than an unconditionally loving God. And then, of course, a just God, you know, that version of justice says, well, God must punish for the apparent sins, because this is wrong. So, you know, sin's been committed. So, you know, God, being the just God that she is, must exact retribution for the apparent sin.
Then you're back into the catch-22, aren't you? And then you're back into the cycle of the world is real, and
yeah. So then God is no longer pure formless awareness. God becomes a dualistic God involved in the miscreation. Then you have the huge problem of explaining how a loving God could do this.
Yeah.
And it's a mess. You can't figure that system out.
No.
You never find an answer within it because it's massively contradictory.
Yeah.
And then you resort to mysteries. Well, it's the mystery of God's grace, or I don't know why evil happens, but God works in mysterious ways and he has a plan. Okay, so it's his plan to hurt us then, is it? And so it doesn't really stack up. It doesn't make sense. If you start questioning that, often that's what happens with traditional Christians. Something terrible happens, and they get that kind of typical Christian. Well, God works in mysterious ways. We can't really say, but it's happening for your good. And then they go, what? So God has intentionally hurt me or my loved ones? I mean, like, has intentionally killed someone? Let's say someone died in an accident. How can that be? How could a loving God do that? It doesn't make sense, does it? And then it's very confusing. So the only way out of that conundrum is to go back to the metaphysics and say, well, actually, God has nothing whatsoever to do with this reality. God didn't create it. God knows nothing about it. God is completely transcendent of it. And that's where salvation lies, in going into that transcendent state of mind and letting go of all of this, because this is my own miscreation. It has nothing to do with God. It's my own attempt to play God and create a false reality. As a substitute for heaven. That's what this is, and that's why it doesn't work. Clearly, the God that I believe created this is actually the false God of the ego. It's actually the belief in separation that created this, which is the false God. So you've got to go to the metaphysics to get resolution, which is why he keeps teaching us that over and over, saying, well, you've got to recognize, an illusion is an illusion is an illusion, and the truth is the truth is the truth, and they don't mix. You can't marry the two together somehow. Try and make that equation work. Okay, so any other thoughts on number 3?
No, it's good.
Number 4. We read the whole of number 4.
Yep.
Oh
no,
we read all of number 4.
No.
We read number 3. This is the false letting go. Okay, we are number 2, I think.
Right. And recognizing pure forms of awareness of perfect love is just, it seems impossible its pardon could be real. So is the fear of perfect love the sure result of perceiving letting go as unmerited. No one who perceives himself as guilty can avoid the fear of perfect love. But he is saved from this dilemma if he can let go. But they are saved from this dilemma, they are freed from this dilemma if they can let go. The mind must think of its source as it looks upon itself.
It perceives itself.
If I can see my companion merits letting go, I have learned letting go or true pardon is my right as much as his. Nor will I think that pure forms awareness of perfect love intends for me, nor will I think that pure forms awareness of perfect love intends a fearful judgment for me. Nor will I think that pure forms awareness of perfect love intends for me a fearful judgment that my companion does not merit. For it is the truth that I can merit neither more nor less than he.
Truth that fact that I can merit, maybe deserve might be better. Merit or deserve, what do you think?
I like deserve.
No. Companion does not deserve. The fact that I deserve neither more nor less than my companion. The fact that I deserve neither more nor less than my companion is the truth. Maybe not the fact, the realization. The realization that I deserve neither more nor less than my companion or my realization that I deserve neither more nor less than my companion is the truth. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what's he saying in that?
Well, he's saying that it's the world's normal view of forgiveness will only take us round in circles because it's based on false belief, on inadequate understanding of what forgiveness really is, and will always take us back to fear because guilt is not taken out of the equation.
And see, your brother merits pardon, so I think that needs to be, my companion deserves pardon. And that. Let's read it from the top, if you don't mind, John.
Yep. This is the false letting go which the world employs to keep the sense of sin alive. And recognizing pure formless awareness of perfect love is just, it seems impossible its pardon could be real. So is the fear of perfect love the sure result of perceiving letting go as unmerited. No one who perceives themselves as guilty can avoid the fear of perfect love. But they are freed from this dilemma if they can let go. The mind must think of its source as it perceives itself. If I can perceive my companion deserves pardon, I have learned that pardon is my right as much as theirs. Nor will I think that pure formless awareness of perfect love intends a fearful judgment from me that my companion does not deserve. But my realization that I deserve neither more nor less than my companion is the truth.
Yeah, I just changed pardon a couple of times there.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you summarized that.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to number 5.
Yeah.
How much longer do you have? Another 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
Yeah. I've got 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Forgiveness,
Yeah,
Forgiveness,
in the original and the alternative. Yeah, that's right.
yeah. Forgiveness recognized as merited will heal. Letting go recognized as merited, as deserved, will heal. Yeah. It gives the miracle its strength to overlook illusions. It gives the correction its strength to overlook illusions. This is how I learn that I must be forgiven too. This is how I learn that I must be let.
Like released.
Yes, I must be released also.
Yeah, I must. Also.
Yeah, there can be no appearance that cannot be overlooked. There can be no appearance that cannot be overlooked. For if there were, it would be necessary first there be some sin that stands beyond forgiveness. For if there were, it would be necessary first
That they first, I think this would be better. It would be necessary that they first be.
Some sin that stands beyond letting.
It would first be necessary. That's better. First be necessary that.
Or if there were, it would be first be necessary that there be some sin that stands beyond letting go. There would be an error that is more than a mistake, a special form of error that remains unchangeable, eternal and beyond correction or escape. There would be one mistake that had the power to undo extension and to make a world that could replace it and destroy the will of its source. Only
being. Yeah. So extension is being. How to undo being. And make a wall that could replace it. Replace being, replace it, capital I, and destroy the will of God, destroy the pure. And that, of course, is the whole delusion. That's what we think we've done. That's what seems to have happened, which now needs the correction of recognizing it never happened. Pure from the source of perfect love. Yeah, number 8. I think you muted, John.
Yep. Only if this were possible could there be some appearances that could withstand the correction and not be healed by it. So it's saying here that only true pardon will heal us. And it's true because with true pardon comes the strength to see beyond the illusion. And we must be careful not to make any exception. Because as soon as we make an exception to this, we allow doubt to come in and that will detract from our complete acceptance of pure pardon.
There'll be one error. So you make one, this is why there are no exceptions. There's one error. It makes all errors real. It's as simple as that. So this is why so much rides on these tests, these challenges we get. The ego's whole reality, the existence of the entire world, rides on that one, on your perception of that one situation. Because if that situation is real and it's unforgivable and pardon's not justified, then they all are. The principle applies across the board. The ego knows that. That's why we find it so hard to forgive, because if we really radically let go of one thing, we've actually saying, well, it's all illusion. We've let it all go. And of course the ego resists that hugely, because that's the end of its identity, its reality, its dream world. And that's why we struggle with it. Because you're talking about, each situation, metaphysically speaking, is like, well, I'm choosing here between realities. I'm choosing between truth and illusion here. There's a split. And the ego is fighting its corner and trying to get us to choose its reality as hard as it possibly can. And the Spirit's reminding us that none of this is true and real. And you will never reconcile those. Not possible, because they are completely opposite ideas, opposite realities. So there's no way of really fudging this, saying, well, I'll have both. You either let go or you hold on. You either live in a false world or the real world. Those are the choices. Okay? Anything else on number 5? You want to do number 6 as the last one?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. There's no surer proof.
There is no surer proof idolatry is what you wish than a belief there are some forms of sickness and of joylessness forgiveness cannot heal. There is no surer proof valuing form is what I wish than a belief there are some forms of sickness and of joylessness letting go cannot heal.
Yeah. So idolatry is valuing form. No surer proof that, maybe that means that valuing form is what I wish for, then my belief there are some forms of sickness and joylessness. Maybe we just say sickness and misery, letting go cannot heal. So I make the exception and I say, well, the sickness can't be healed, this misery, this unhappiness can't be healed. Then I'm saying that I still value form. No surer proof that idolatry is valuing form, attaching to form. No surer proof that valuing this world, that I would just say that this world, no surer proof that this world is what I wish for than my belief that some forms of sickness, misery, and misery letting go cannot heal. So what does this mean? This means that
This means that I prefer to keep some, and I'm not prepared as yet to let all idols go.
yeah, So to value some means that I prefer to keep some forms and I'm not prepared yet to let all false not prepared yet to let all my false beliefs go.
And thus, and so I think that some appearances are real and not appearances at all. And so I think that some
Yeah, so this is what we do. We make exceptions. We say that's not an appearance. It's reality. That's real.
yeah.
I've made an exception, and those are the things that hurt us. Those exceptions are the things that we've given the power still to cause us to suffer, and which the ego then uses to perpetuate its reality in our minds. Okay, number 4.
I am not deceived about the meaning of a fixed belief that some appearances are harder to look past than others are. I am not deceived about the meaning of a fixed belief that some appearances are hard to overlook.
Maybe let go might be better.
Yeah. I don't think we need that R at the end either.
Not deceived about the meaning of a fixed belief that some appearances are harder to let go of than others are. No, you don't need it. Than others are harder to let go than others. Than others are, maybe it's harder to let go of than others. Yeah, I don't think you're right. Okay.
It always means, I think, letting go must be limited.
That, I think, always means I think.
Always means, I think, letting go must be limited. Letting go must be limited. And I have set a goal of partial pardon and a limited escape from guilt for me, for myself. What can this be except a false letting go of myself and everyone who seems apart from me?
Okay, just read it from the top and the alternative, and then
There is no surer proof that this world is what I wish for than my belief there are some forms of sickness and misery letting go cannot heal. This means that I prefer to value some forms and am not prepared yet to let all my false beliefs go. And so I think that some appearances are real and not appearances at all. I am not deceived about the meaning of a fixed belief that some appearances are harder to let go of than others. It always means I think that letting go must be limited. And I have set a goal of partial pardon and a limited escape from guilt for me. What can this be except a false letting go of myself and everyone who seems apart from me?
false letting go of my special self, shall we say. Yeah. So, what's he saying there in summary?
So it's saying here that the world would have us believe there are certain situations that cannot justify pardon. And as long as we go along with any of those, we are limiting ourselves and making forgiveness partial, that will never work.
Yeah, we'll never fully escape unless it's comprehensive, because it's this or that. The nature of truth is that it's true, and it is completely the opposite of illusions. You can't mix and marry the reality. So pure formless awareness of perfect love is one reality. This world being the projection of the ego is another. They're alternate realities, alternate selves, and you've got to choose. Now, if you choose a little bit of one and a little bit of another, you've just got a compromise, which doesn't bring you any clarity or any peace, which is what most people do with their spirituality. Well, I keep the bits I like of the world, and I like some of the spiritual teachings and the truth, and I try and kind of merge that into some thought system that can guide me and make some kind of sense. But you keep hitting the paradox of, well, there are things in this world, so many things don't make any sense. Why is there so much chaos and confusion and pain and suffering and sickness and death if this is God's creation? And you keep hitting that same paradox over and over again until you take the stand, as Yeshua calls it, like, okay, truth is true, and that's somewhere else. That's not in this world. It's not in form, certainly. It underlies form, but form is illusion. None of it, none of what I see here, none of what I perceive is true. That's the stand we take. Nothing I see, nothing I perceive here really means anything at all. That's the line we have to take. And as soon as we vary from that, those are the exceptions that we have to really look at and go, okay, but no exceptions. The truth is true, it remains true throughout. And so the situation is no exception at all. So I apply, the radical forgiveness, and I'm willing to perceive it correctly. This is as unreal, untrue, of no consequence, of no effect, of no meaning. So why am I bothered by it? Why is my peace being disturbed by what has no effect and what is unreal? And then this, the peace of God that surpasses all understanding comes over you when you really get that. That's probably what you experienced this morning when you did the 10-step letting go process.
Yeah.
It's like I've corrected it on a deeper level, and I feel that peace. I'm no longer attached to it. I realize it's just unreal. It's all just part of a dream, and it's just the ego is trying to trigger me. That's what's going on. It's trying to trigger me. It's trying to get me attached to this. I understand the game, and I just do the only thing I can, which is let it go. Okay, shall we leave it there, John? Any other comments?
Yeah. I can return around about 3 o'clock, John, but you may be busy or may finish. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Yeah, there we are.
Here we are again. Yeah. An hour later. Okay, so shall we just
Carry on.
pick up where we left off? Can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Internet connection's unstable. Okay. So let me just start the recording again. Resume recording. There we go. Okay. So welcome back. Let's carry on where we left off. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so we're on chapter, section 6, chapter 30, and we were at number 7, yeah?
Yeah, number 7, yeah.
Cool.
So,
You want to read it in the original and the alternative?
yeah, it must be true the miracle can heal all forms of sickness, or it cannot heal. So it must be true the correction can heal all forms of sickness, or it cannot heal. Its purpose cannot be to judge which forms are real and which appearances are true.
We say we cannot heal at all.
Yeah, so it cannot heal at all. Its purpose cannot be to judge which forms are real and which appearances are true. If one appearance must remain apart from healing, one illusion must be part of truth. If one appearance must remain apart from healing, one illusion must be part of truth.
Quite profound.
And I could not escape, and I could not escape all guilt, only some of it. I must let go. Oh, what's the? You must forgive God's Son entirely. I must let go of the extension entirely. Or I will keep an image of myself that is not whole, and will remain afraid.
Let go of extension. See? Just pause it.
Yeah.
He must forgive God's Son
Good. Yeah.
entirely, right? So that's the translation. So that needs a bit of change. I must how about let go of my
Yes, that's better.
my judgment of
My judgment.
perfect loves.
How about companions?
Perfect loves entirely. God's Son. Yeah. So let go of my judgment of my companions. No perfect love's extension entirely.
Or I will keep an image of myself that is not whole, and will remain afraid to look within and find escape from every idol there, from every false belief. Awakening rests on faith. There cannot be some form of guilt that I cannot let go. Awakening rests on faith. There cannot be any form of guilt that I cannot let go.
No, some forms, I think it's okay. There cannot be some forms of guilt
That I cannot let go. And so there cannot be appearances that have replaced the truth.
On the faith, maybe.
Awakening rests on the faith that there cannot be some forms of guilt that I cannot let go. And so there cannot be appearances that have replaced the truth about the extension.
Cannot be appearances that replace the truth about the extension. Replace the truth about God's Son. Replace the truth about perfect love's extension. And there cannot be any appearances that have replaced the truth about perfect love's extension. Okay, I'm going to read that from the top.
It must be true that correction can heal all forms of sickness, or it cannot heal at all. Its purpose cannot be to judge which forms are real and which appearances are true. If one appearance must remain apart from healing, one illusion must be part of truth. And I could not escape all guilt, only some of it. I must let go.
Apart from healing is a better way of saying that. If one appearance remains separate, remains apart from healing, remains unhealed. How about that? One appearance remains unhealed.
Yeah.
One illusion must be part of truth.
And I could not escape.
So again, it's yeah, carry on, John.
And I could not escape all guilt, only some of it. I must let go of my judgment of my companions, who are perfect love's extension entirely. Or I will keep an image of myself that is not whole, and will remain afraid to look within and find escape from every false belief there. Awakening rests on the faith that there cannot be some forms of guilt that I cannot let go. And so there cannot be any appearances that have replaced the truth about perfect love's extension.
Yeah.
So it's just repeating the idea here that it's impossible that miracles, that corrections hang on. It must be true the correction can heal all. Yeah, so he's emphasizing that miracles can heal all forms of sickness, there aren't any exceptions. If there were, then the truth wouldn't be truth.
Hmm.
And we would never heal all guilt. We'd only heal some of it.
Yeah. So there can be no exceptions again to the truth. The truth is true always. All appearances are false. And if you compromise on that, then you're saying that there's some forms of guilt that are real and that cannot be let go of. Of course, that's what the ego wants you to believe. So there cannot be any appearances that replace the truth about perfect love's extension. So it's a very, very all-encompassing, comprehensive. It's like it's this or it's that. And as he says, you accept this course entirely or not at all. You can't compromise on it, because a compromise approach is what's got us into the mess that we're in. We believe somewhat in the ego, somewhat in spirit, and we try and make that work. And that's why we're here, because we still haven't decided completely for the spirit. There's still a compromise in our mind. So again, the positions are made very clear, and saying you must choose. It's truth or illusion. There's no in between, and therefore you can heal anything. Otherwise, you kind of enter this nether world. I mean, I've even heard Eckhart Tolle going into this kind of compromised position where he'll say, well, 90% of things you worry about aren't justified. No, it's not 90%, is it? It's 100%, or it's all of it. You either worry about all of it because it's real, or you worry about none of it because it's unreal. Those are the positions from a non-dual perspective. You don't start making illusions somewhat true. Oh, well, 10% of them are somewhat true. No, they're all illusions. So it doesn't matter, what may happen. So it's a very uncompromising, non-dual position, which is what will free us. Okay, so anything else in number 7?
No, that's clear.
Okay, so number 8, very short one. So read it in the original and the alternatives.
Look on your brother with the willingness to see him as he is. I will look upon my companion with the willingness to see him as he is. And do not keep a part of him outside your willingness that he be healed. And do not keep a part of it outside your willingness.
So, companions.
Yeah.
Because then we don't have the he, she issue,
Yeah.
which largely actually you can get around in this translation this year. Certainly have largely got around that, because you just pluralize it and then you're over the he, she issue to perceive them as they are. And I do not keep a part of him outside my willingness. I will not set intention. I will not keep a part of.
And I will not keep a part of them outside my willingness that they be healed. To heal is to make whole. and what is whole can have no missing parts that have been kept outside. Letting go rests on recognizing this and being glad there cannot be some forms of sickness which the correction must lack the power to heal.
Recognizing this. Being glad there cannot be some forms. Being glad, being happy. Glad it's okay. There cannot be some forms of sickness, which the correction. I don't think we need a must there. They're doing. So correction lacks the power to heal, or just does not have the power to heal.
Yeah.
It's better. Does not have the power to heal. So read from the top again, an alternative.
I will perceive my companions with the willingness to perceive them as they are, and I will not keep a part of them outside my willingness that they be healed. To heal is to make whole, and what is whole can have no missing parts that have been kept outside. Letting go rests on recognizing this and being glad there cannot be some forms of sickness which the correction does not have the power to heal. So I was saying that there, when we perceive our companions correctly, then we participating in the process of healing them, but without any exception.
Yeah. Exactly. No exceptions made. To heal is to make whole what is whole. And have no missing parts. So again, the truth is true, it's whole, it's complete, and illusion is illusion, and can be therefore accordingly let go of. And it's just to keep reminding ourselves of that, because that's the only way out, isn't it? If you start compromising and fudging things and say, well, that's that part of the illusion's real and that's not so real, and it's impossible. You can't domain of preference, perception, preference. So it's like, well, what makes that more real or important than anything else? Only your own perception of it, isn't it? So you've completely made that up and gone, oh, well, I value that, but not that. And so that kind of compromised approach and really quite scattered, saying, I've now got this rule for this and this rule for this, and that's all part of the illusion. That's what confuses us. And he's trying to cut through all of that and say, it's this or it's that, and choose, and you can't fudge it.
You know what, John? I've got one thing
Okay.
that's going. I've got something that's going through my mind that's kind of disturbing me a little bit, and we've talked about it before, and I don't want to deviate too much, but it's this thing about warfare, and all anger is wrong, all war is wrong, and then you come to this World War II situation, and people make an exception. Yeah, I've heard course teachers make an exception. Well, World War II, I would have joined in, but there cannot be an exception.
That's a tough one. That particular situation is a tough one, isn't it?
It is,
because it's like, well, what would you have done? I think the way to resolve it is to say, look, spiritually speaking, war is never justified, anger is never justified, attack's never justified. So that's spiritually correct. It will always be correct. but you know, in a situation like like World War II, and you've got a an absolute psychopath who's trying to control the world, and is not going to listen to reason at all. What do you do? How would you resolve that?
Yeah.
Do you let him enslave the world to his will, and go, well, we'll just forgive you, and allow you to have your way? I guess I think actually Gandhi was asked the same question at some point,
Yes. Yeah, I think he was.
said,
Yeah.
he was asked that question, I think, and his response was a bit sort of, I'm not sure he quite knew how to answer it. So he said, well, it would take a long time to correct the error. I think
Yeah.
that's what he said. So it would take a lot of compassion and forgiveness to correct the egregious errors that the Nazis made if they'd come to power. So that was his response. What what would one do? I mean, it's not something that Yeshua addresses in the course, and it's a particular situation in history that was quite unique. It hasn't happened before. Well, maybe to an extent. I mean, there have been many megalomaniacs and tyrants, but never to that degree. It was like okay, well, the megalomaniac's just attacking the country next door. He's not trying to take over the entire world, which is what Hitler was trying to do. So you might then say, well, in the same way as Yeshua compromises on he says that in terms of the healing, well, sometimes a compromise approach may be necessary because the person is inaccessible to the at-one-ment. So then you use a magic solution to try and help them to heal. So that's one of the few instances where he says, okay, some kind of compromise could be helpful because the person is not there on this atonement plan. And you don't want them to suffer unnecessarily. So maybe you use the magic and then try and build from there, and maybe at some point they will be more accessible. Maybe a similar thing. So Hitler and his Nazi sycophants were inaccessible to their at-one-ment, like completely not on that page at all. In fact, quite the opposite, and very organized, disciplined, structured sort of evil in actually. So how would you deal with that? Just through normal means of saying, well, we'll just forgive you, my brother. We see the light in you, and we just allow you to carry on doing your thing, hurting others and hurting yourself. So you could then say, well, love. What would love do in that situation? Love would correct the error.
Yeah.
How would love correct the error? Okay, well, love would do what's necessary to correct the error. Idea of, okay, well, these guys are not open to discussion. I mean, Chamberlain tried that. They tried appeasing Hitler, and it clearly wasn't going to work. So how do you correct that? Really egregious, with arms, because he's not willing to listen at all, and say, look, this is not acceptable. You can't. We have to prevent you from hurting others.
I mean, I
as well as
suppose
yourself. And on that basis, you could say, well, yes, it's a compromise approach. It's not.
I suppose it gets close to Mandela in South Africa during the apartheid years, when they seemingly had very little chance of overthrowing apartheid. And I mean, I think he was on the edge of. But did he get involved in?
Yeah. They did a whole thing.
Yeah.
Which they had an armed struggle and stuff. So but that clearly wasn't working. So
Yeah.
I think he through his wisdom realized that there's a better way, and it took time. He did a lot of forgiveness. At some point, the attrition that apartheid didn't work as a system. So but it took a lot of time to work it out. It had to kind of naturally run its course, and he didn't have too many options. So he that's how that went. But that was sort of inevitable, and maybe that's would have corrected. It would have gone. Probably the same with Nazism. At some point, you can't sustain that level of evil. So even if Hitler had won the war and he'd taken over, it would have deconstructed at some point. But who knows when? You might have had many. It took apartheid 40 years. You might have had. It took Soviet Union best part of a century. 80 years to deconstruct. So it would have deconstructed, but it might have taken a long time. It might have taken 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We don't know. And how exactly that would have played out, again, you don't know. Would it have happened through some kind of resistance? Because there certainly would have been resistance. There would have been guerrillas probably fighting him, and so it's a scenario that unfortunately we didn't have to deal with. But eventually evil will undo itself, but it still requires that people maybe stand for the truth. It's not just going to happen. People actually have to say, okay, enough, enough of this, and then the collective consciousness changes, and then a revolution happens. They say at about 3.5%, there's a tipping point. So 3.5% of a population change their mind fundamentally. Now, are we done with this? Then the system will change. So it's not an easy one. In those circumstances, what would you have done? If you were Churchill or one of the leaders, what would you have done? Would you have gone, well, forgive and let this nutter take over, and then try and figure out a way to work it out, in generations? Or do you take a stand and say, right, we have to fight? And I think any leader in that position would have said, we have to fight. The long-term forgiveness option would not have gone down well with Chamberlain tried it, but it wasn't working, and the British people were not in favor of, like, okay, well, let's just make some kind of truce with this guy and try and live in some kind of harmony with an insane megalomaniac. They weren't up for it. So if Churchill hadn't fulfilled their wishes and they would have elected someone else to say, okay, this government's got to go. We need another way here. So I'd say, like, practically speaking, it was the right way, even though spiritually speaking, anger and attack, are never justified. But I think they weren't. Another way of looking would be to say they weren't really attacking. The Allies were defending, and they ended up having to invade Europe. Because you had to unseat him. You couldn't just leave him and go, okay, well, now we've defended our borders. They realized they had to go to the heart of the evil and rout it out. So it was a counterattack. The Germans were doing attacking, and they went, okay, well, we have to do something. There's a correction is necessary. So I would view it as that was what love required to correct the egregious errors of the Nazis. I mean, they were appalling errors. That was what was required, and that's what happened. And I think there was certainly the Holy Spirit inspired people like Churchill and others to do what they needed to do. But strictly speaking, you should never bear arms, and you should never fight, and you should never defend or attack. So I think that would be one of those compromise approaches that he invites with the medical side. But you could also say, well, in that instance, what would you do? I've heard Marianne Williamson actually saying, because she was asked about a military option, and I heard her saying, well, yeah, a military option could be on the cards, and you could see that was ego, because it was. So we're talking about Iraq. I mean, at that stage, it was 20 years ago. And you could almost see she kind of went, okay, I'm on camera. And she obviously had political ambitions at that point, although she hadn't, run for president yet. And you could see there was like, okay, well, I need to pick my words carefully here, because I don't want to say something that's politically incorrect. In the US, they're very patriotic and stuff. So I need to kind of hedge my bets here and say, well, a military option could be an option. And I was like, really? No. The course would never, would never say that, would it? A military could be an option, particularly in a situation like that. I mean, it's not like some tyrant's trying to take over the world. It's just a petty squabble for land and oil. Really, that's you're facing the epitome of evil, and the Nazis who are trying to take over the world, which is the case in World War II. So anyway, these are I'm not sure you'll ever get a proper answer.
No. Well, it's useful.
It's a difficult. It's one of those situations. It's like, well, I guess what needed to happen happened, and you could say that wasn't strictly according to the Holy Spirit and the Course's teachings. No, it wasn't strictly, because there were arms were carried and fighting was had. But there was a sense, I certainly get a sense from World War II, that there wasn't an inspiration that came into the Allies. There's like, okay, we have to win this, because we're fighting for good. Essentially, it was like good versus evil. That old. Whereas many other wars are not so clear cut. It's like, okay, the World War I was a classic case. I mean, what was good, it was a mess. It was like there was no. What was the reason they were even fighting? There was no clear cut reason. It was like, okay, it's just insanity. We're fighting, killing millions of men for no particular reason. At least World War II, you had a just cause. It was like, okay, the reason is we got to stop this megalomaniac who wants to take over the world, wipe out Jews and various other races, completely oppress and control the nations that he conquers. This is not acceptable. We can't allow this. So there was a just cause, and I think they felt that, the Allies felt that it was like that, and the soldiers felt it, that they were fighting for something that was worthwhile, which is probably why they won in the end, and why the Germans lost. Because how do you fight for an unjust cause? Spiritually speaking, you're not in alignment, are you? So and anyway, shall we move on? Because
yes, indeed. Yeah,
we could go on about and just take it as one of those anomalies in history. And okay, what happened needed to happen, but it wasn't strictly according to course
that's
principles.
good, John. It's good.
All right.
Yep.
So let's go back to okay, so number 9.
Number 9. The extension is perfect, or it cannot be the extension.
Just read it in the original.
God's Son is perfect, or he cannot be God's Son. Perfect love's extension is perfect, or it cannot be the extension, or it cannot be the extension of the source, can't be the extension. Nor will you know him if you think he does not merit the escape from guilt in all its consequences and its forms. Nor will I know him if I think he does not merit the escape from guilt in all its consequences and its forms.
So let's say, nor will I know my companions.
Yeah. I think, nor will I know my companions if I think they do not merit the escape from guilt in all its consequences and its forms. Yeah. There is no way to think of him but this, if you would know the truth about yourself. There is no way to think of them other than this, if you would know the truth about yourself.
I think let's just change merit to deserve them previously.
Yeah,
Let's make this positive. So there's no way to think of them but this. There is only one way to think of them. I would know the truth.
I would know the truth about myself. Yes, good. Good. I thank you, Source, for your perfect I thank you, Father, for your perfect Son, and in his glory I will see my own. I thank you, Source, for your perfect extension, and in its glory I will see my own.
I didn't seem to have made it in. I don't know what happened there. Okay, so let me just fix. Let me just see if I can fix that quickly. Anyway, so there's the joyful statement. There are no forms of evil that can overcome the will of God. There will be that acknowledgement that guilt has not succeeded. I wish to make illusions real. And what is this except a simple statement of only small truth? Okay.
Okay.
And then read an alternative.
Here is a joyful statement that there are no forms of evil that can overcome the will of pure formless awareness of perfect love. The glad acknowledgement that guilt has not succeeded by your wish to make illusion free. And what is this except a simple statement of the truth?
No. Overcome the will of God is the pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's because of will is awareness. No forms of evil, no forms of evil that can overcome the pure formless awareness of perfect love. Glad acknowledgement that guilt has not succeeded by your wish to make by my wish to make illusions real. Through my wish, maybe it would be better, through my wish to make illusions real. And what is this except a simple statement of the truth? So I mean, I think, to go back to the World War II issue briefly, the saying here that there are no forms of evil that can overcome pure formless awareness of perfect love. You know, that was a demonstration of that. It was like, okay, well, the spirit will find a way to combat this and make sure that, you know, this evil does not overwhelm the world. And that's exactly what played out. And at points it looked like he would. It seemed, you know, the British were facing overwhelming odds. But somehow, you know, the plan was made. So I think, you know, one has to kind of surrender to a higher power that knows all and says, okay, well, you know, somehow the will of God is done even in that. And interesting, also, I didn't mention this before, but Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, which is all about some of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
And they had this massive battle, which was historically, you know, huge conflict in ancient India between these two powerful nations, the Kalingas and the something else, can't remember. And so Arjuna was fighting with Krishna in that, and Arjuna was like, well, you know, we're studying all this non-dual, you know, they were studying Advaita essentially, which is the same teaching as the Course, and so, you know, what's the deal? How can I do this? I don't want to go into battle. I don't want to kill people. And I think Krishna's advice was, well, you know, we're called upon to do what we're called upon. This is what you have to do. This is your lesson, and, you know, take it as such, and kind of man up and, you know, take it on, because this is what you're required to do. And there is a, you know, a lesson to be learned for you. I mean, that was his teaching. So he was like, okay, well, you know, it's not ultimately, you know, it's not ultimate nirvana, but it's part of, you know, the lesson that Arjuna had to go through. So, as it would have been for anyone who was involved in that World War II conflict. And you can sort of, from that point of view, then be philosophical about it and go, okay, well, you know, this is part of my process of at-one-ment. I mentioned, I remember reading about another chap who had a major spiritual awakening on the battlefield, and he said, you know, he was in the middle of a battle and shells flying, and he just suddenly kind of saw it all. He zoomed out and he just transcended it, and he saw it all from a higher perspective, even while all this injured as well. While all that's happening, he just went literally above the battleground. In that instance, it was very literal, not figurative. He went above the battleground and kind of had a spiritual awakening experience on the battlefield, which then he said profoundly changed his mind, his life, and, you know, he came out of the army and became a spiritual teacher. So, you know, you say, well, that was obviously his wake-up call. That was where he was destined to awaken. So the truth is always there, you know, even in the illusions. Okay, so it's just I will see my magnificence. So in His glory will I see mine, I will perceive. In His glory will I see mine, and I'll perceive my own magnificence in theirs, in my companions. Okay.
Yeah. Number 5. I know. Hang on, we've done number 5, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah. So just read the whole thing from the top. Number 9.
Here is the joyful statement that there are no forms of evil that can overcome the pure formless awareness of perfect love. The glad acknowledgement that guilt has not succeeded through my wish to make illusions real. And what is this except a simple statement of the truth?
No. And then just read the first part of it. I've highlighted.
Okay. Perfect love's extension is perfect, or it cannot be the extension of perfect love. Nor will I know my companions if I think they do not deserve the escape from guilt in all its consequences and forms. There is only one way to think of them if I want to know the truth about myself.
Yeah.
I thank you, my source, for your perfect extension, and I will perceive my own magnificence in my companion. Here is the joyful statement that there are no forms of evil that can overcome the pure formless awareness of perfect love. The glad acknowledgement that guilt has not succeeded through my wish to make illusions real. And what is this except a simple statement of the truth?
Yeah. So what's he saying in this one?
Is reaffirming that we'll find our own freedom by seeing the innocence in our companions without.
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter what someone has done or said or not done or said. There's only one way to think of them. I want to know the truth. I will perceive my own magnificence in my companions. So no matter what they've done, their true awareness, their innocence, and their pure formless awareness of perfect love is untouched. It remains the same as does mine. So when I acknowledge theirs, then I'm automatically acknowledging theirs from mine. It's only my own awareness can acknowledge theirs. And so this is why he spends so much time talking about our companions and how we perceive them, because he realizes that this is where the rubber meets the road. It's all very well saying, I love God. I love God with all my heart, soul, and mind. Yeah, okay, that's conceptually quite noble, and it's easy to do, isn't it? I love the Lord, and I can be very pious, but can I love my brothers? Can I love my companions no matter what they're doing? That's much harder. And I'm not loving God fully if I don't love my companions, because then I've got a split mind and I've got other thoughts and emotions going on: fear, anger, irritation, hatred, attack, and so on, instead of just pure formless awareness of perfect love. So how we perceive our companions is where the rubber meets the road. And you notice, especially since sort of chapter 15, he talks about God on the one hand and connecting with source, and then he always brings in your companions and says, well, this is how this perceiving your companions in this way will help you to connect with your source and become one with your source, which he's doing again here in this particular paragraph.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Number 10. Look on your brother with this hope in you, and you will understand he could not make an error that could change the truth in him. I perceive my companion with this hope in me, and I understand he could not make an error that could change the truth in him. And I perceive my companions with this hope in me, and I will understand they could not make an error that could change the truth in them. It is not difficult to overcome mistakes that have been given no effects. It is not difficult to overlook mistakes that have been given no effects. But what you see as having power to make an idol of the Son of God, you will not pardon. But what I perceive as having power to make an idol of the extension of pure formless awareness, of pure love, will not let go.
Yeah, what I perceive as having power to make an idol. False make idol.
False
No.
belief. What I perceive as having power to make a false belief.
False belief or false self?
Yeah, false self is better.
Oh,
Yeah, false self of the extension, I will not let go.
I perceive having power to make false self of the idol of the Son of God of extension. I will not let go of.
Yeah. What I perceive as having the power to make a false self perfect. No.
Yeah,
For he has become to you a graven image and a sign of death. For they have become to me a graven image and a sign of death.
graven image and a sign of death to me.
Is this your savior? Is this my savior?
We normally translate savior as awakener.
Okay.
Is this my awakener?
Is his father wrong about his son? Is its source wrong about its extension? Or have you been deceived in him who has been given you to heal for your salvation and deliverance? Or have I been deceived in him who has been given me to heal for my awakening and freedom?
Have I been deceived and then you've given me so what he means here is to facilitate my healing. I don't think he means given me to heal them. Them who have been given, given to me to facilitate my healing, awakening, and freedom. Okay, so then just read it from the top.
I perceive my companions with this hope in me, and I will understand they could not make an error that could change the truth in them. It is not difficult to overlook mistakes that have been given no effects. But what I perceive as having the power to make a false self of perfect love's extension, I will not let go of. For they have become a graven image and a sign of death to me. Is this my awakener? Is its source wrong about its extension? Or have I been deceived in them who have been given to me to facilitate my healing, awakening, and freedom?
Okay, so what's he saying in that one?
He's saying, We're saying again that, you know, as we perceive in others, as we perceive innocence in others, we will regain our peace. And it cannot be any other way.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Happy with number 10?
Yep. Yep. There's been quite a lot of repetition in those last few paragraphs,
Hmm.
kind of putting it slightly differently in each time.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that's that's what the course does, isn't it? You just states the case over and over. So let's just like that down there. So I'm going to read the over there. I'm going to read the personalized executive summary.
Yep. I understand that anger is never justified and any form of attack lacks a foundation. True liberation begins when we depart from fear and let go of false perceptions. True pardon is always justified. Awakening is about reaching appropriately. Awakening is about reacting appropriately to what is unreal by recognizing its non-existence. Letting go is the only rational response in the face of errors or misperception. By grasping the truth behind letting go, we can replace our terrifying illusions with reality. It's essential to know that genuine forgiveness will lead to healing. If we think that some aspects of our existence are beyond forgiveness, we cling to illusions and limit our liberation. I've come to realize that for real healing to occur, we must believe that all forms of suffering can be healed. Holding on to selective beliefs about what can or can't be healed means we're not ready to let go in time. Any belief suggesting some errors or illusions are more permanent than others limits our capacity for true forgiveness. Healing is holistic.
Just pause it there. So I think let's just review each paragraph as we go.
Okay.
You want to just
So the first one is
one? What's he saying?
I understand that anger is never justified in whatever form it might present itself, and true pardon is essential in all situations to bring about forgiveness, and that is and pure pardon or real forgiveness can only lead to healing, but as long and will work as long as we don't cling to any illusions or false beliefs.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
The next one.
I've come to realize that for real healing to occur, I must believe that all forms of suffering can be healed. Holding on to selected beliefs about what can or can't be healed means we're not ready to let go in time. Any belief suggesting some errors or illusions are more permanent than others limits our capacity for true forgiveness. Healing is holistic. Nothing should remain outside of it. Looking upon others with genuine willingness to see them as they are without exceptions is the path to healing.
Yeah, so what's he saying in that one?
It's saying that that real healing is the answer to all illness and forms of suffering, but we must let go of all illusions and not hang on to anything, and have a genuine willingness to see through all false beliefs and seeing others in therein.
Healing is holistic. Healing is maybe not the best word, comprehensive. Nothing should remain outside of it. Nothing should remain unhealed. Looking upon others with genuine willingness. Genuine willingness to maybe let's leave it actually. See them as they are. Genuine willingness to perceive them as they are without making exceptions. Is the path to healing. Is the path to complete healing. Oh, that is my path to complete healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
No, it's good.
See what's he saying.
But we've summarized that one, John.
Yeah.
The essence of existence is perfect. Recognizing this perfection in others allows us to see the truth about ourselves. I'm grateful for this understanding and acknowledge that no form of negativity can overcome the pure formless awareness of perfect love. When I view others with hope, I see that they cannot alter the inherent truth within them. Any mistake that doesn't impact the core truth is easy to overlook. Holding on to a perception that someone else's mistakes have the power to alter the truth about them or myself is a false belief. True freedom and awakening come from recognizing and celebrating the unchangeable truth within all.
Yeah, it's just I perceive as with hope, I perceive that they cannot ultimately hear in truth within them. Instead of I see, I understand, and maybe understand that they cannot ultimately hear in truth within them. So actually true seeing is actually understanding, isn't it? You're not seeing with the body size, it's an understanding of the mind. Any mistake that doesn't impact the core truth is easy to overlook. Doesn't impact the core truth. Core truth. Any mistake. So how about no mistakes? The power to affect the truth. So we must all be easy to overlook, or easy to let go of. Or onto perception that someone else's mistakes have the power to alter truth about them or myself.
I'm going to have to go in a minute, John. Oh, sorry.
Okay, we're nearly done. So should we just wrap it up? Holding on to perception that someone else's mistakes have the power to alter the truth of them or myself is a false belief. Yeah, true freedom and awakening come from recognizing and celebrating the unchangeable truth within everyone. Okay, so what's he saying in that last paragraph?
I was saying that that as we truly understand the perfection in others and give and recognize that, we reunite with spirit within ourselves and our own inherent perfection, and truth prevails.
Yeah, it will ultimately prevail, and no mistakes can really affect that, which is a very comforting message. Okay, and then the key message.
I understand that genuine forgiveness leads to healing and liberation. True awakening involves letting go of illusions and recognizing the inherent perfection in everyone. Perceiving others with loving kindness and understanding helps me to perceive the unchangeable truth within everyone, paving the way for true freedom.
Doesn't go. So I've made that pardon over here, and the true pardon, or letting go leads to healing and liberation. True awakening, I was letting go of all my illusions. I mean, that doesn't need a true there. There's too many truths going on. Awakening involves letting go of all my illusions, recognizing your imperfection in everyone. Seeing others with loving kindness and understanding helps me to perceive the unchangeable truth within everyone, paving the way for true freedom. And those the for my, let's just copy that. It's a nice way to end for my healing, awakening. Okay, read that from the top.
I understand that true pardon or letting go leads to healing and liberation. Awakening involves letting go of all my illusions and recognizing the inherent perfection in everyone. Perceiving others with loving kindness and understanding helps me to perceive the unchangeable truth within everyone, paving the way for my healing, awakening, and freedom.
Yeah.
That's good.
Nice summary, I think.
It is. Yeah, good, John.
Okay. Anything else? Any comments or questions? Or you?
No, that's very good, John. It's been a very useful session.
Yeah. Only
Yeah.
a pleasure. Glad we did it. We completed it in 2 parts, so we've got a whole a complete recording. That's why I just kept it going on YouTube.
Ah,
so.
Good.
Yeah. If anyone was watching, they would have watched a blank screen for a long time, but like if you cut the recording, then you have to start again, and then it's a separate session. So anyway, yeah, thanks. I'll see you tomorrow or Thursday.
Yeah, probably tomorrow.
Yeah. All right, tomorrow evening.
Yeah, good chance, I think. Yeah.
Tomorrow
Yes.
evening.
Or if not, then Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thursday, I'll probably
So
do an afternoon session on Thursday.
okay. That's fine. I'll see you soon anyway, John.
Great. All right. Thank you, John.
Okay. Thank you, John.
All right. Bye for now. All right. So I think that's a wrap for the session. A nice session just on the text today. Key message is that pardon is letting go, and that leads to healing and liberation. And that pardon needs to be recognized that no illusions are true. The metaphysics have to come in and instead of trying to pardon what's seemingly happened, you made it real in your mind. You recognize the unreality from the start, and that leads to true healing, awakening, and freedom. So I hope this has helped you understand that, and please do join us soon in one of our live sessions. There's a link below, allow you to register for Masterclass. You can also join us, subscribe to the channel to get the videos, join us on YouTube, and sign up to my Telegram list to get daily inspirational messages and quotes sent to you. So hope to catch you on the inside soon. Namaste, which means the truth in me, true self in me, honors that same true self in you. Peace.